Today is Tuesday, 17th of June, 2025, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. This news is brought to you by Preeti Capital, your trusted source for financial insights.
Okay, let's dive in. Welcome, everyone. We're pulling insights today directly from the Preeti Capital Market Briefing, the one from June 17th, 2025 at 6 a.m.
Right.
And our mission, really, is just to quickly unpack this specific market snapshot.
Yeah.
What moved, maybe why, and what seems notable right now.
And what jumps out immediately, I think, is how this briefing flags a pretty volatile landscape overall.
Yeah, it doesn't really pull punches there.
No, it doesn't. And it links that volatility directly to, well, ongoing geopolitical stuff, those Israeli-Iran airstrikes, specifically mentioned impacting oil, but also sector shifts.
And you can really see that volatility in the sector numbers they gave us. Energy, maybe not surprisingly, given the oil situation, surged last week. What was it, 5.42%?
Yeah, 5.42%. And the briefing, like you said, ties that straight to Brent and WTI crude prices climbing.
Right. But then you look elsewhere, and it feels like caution is creeping in. Financials dropped 2.04%.
Correct. 2.04% down for financials. And industrials and consumer discretionary also slipped. The report suggests those are, pretty clear signs of investors getting a bit wary.
Which usually leads to that rotation into defensives, doesn't it?
Exactly. And we see that pattern here. Healthcare stocks actually rose 1.48%.
Okay.
And utilities and real estate saw some, well, modest gains. It
Yeah.
definitely points towards that classic move to perceive safety when things feel uncertain.
The brief also had some interesting market breadth data for the S&P 500.
Oh, yeah. What did it show?
Well, it noted 72.3% of stocks are trading above their 50-day moving average. So, decent short-term momentum.
Okay, short-term optimism, maybe.
But, and this is the interesting part, only 36.9% are above the 200-day moving average.
Ah, okay. That divergence is kind of telling, isn't it?
It really is.
It suggests like some short-term energy, maybe trading on recent news, but not a lot of deep, long-term conviction. Sort of fits that volatile landscape theme perfectly.
Definitely. And it seems that global uncertainty is hitting commodities too, based on the briefing.
Right. Gold was up slightly, 0.09%, and silver climbed a bit more, 0.87%.
The usual suspects in uncertain times.
Yeah, the safe havens. And notably, natural gas jumped quite a bit, 2.96%. So these moves really show how that risk-off feeling impacts more than just stocks.
And digging into specifics, the briefing points to things investors are watching, like the upcoming Federal Reserve policy meeting. Always a big one.
Always. But then you have these like really specific company stories that just cut through the noise. Sunrun, for instance, an 18% jump.
Wow, 18%. What drove that?
The briefing ties it directly to them linking 130,000 home batteries to the grid, a huge operational milestone, apparently.
That's massive. Shows how specific news can still really move a stock.
Absolutely. And Sasol gained too, reportedly due to new leadership and some favorable court stuff. Even in quantum computing, you saw D-Wave and Rigetti advance on hardware news. Company execution still matters, clearly.
But it wasn't all positive, right? Archer Aviation dropped sharply.
Yeah, down 15%. The briefing said it was a large capital raise that kind of spooked investors. Concerns about dilution, probably.
Makes sense.
And then you had declines in Newegg and Tonix Pharmaceuticals, too, linked more to operational or regulatory challenges.
Okay. And looking ahead, the brief mentioned upcoming earnings.
Yeah, Jabil, Semig, John Wiley, Lozy Boy, a few names. And it highlighted the implied volatility around those reports is about 7 to 10%.
So the market's expecting some moves post-earnings.
Pretty much. They also noted some dividend declarations, Huntington Bank shares, J&J Snack Foods, Upbound Group, Chimong Financial. Sometimes that signals stability,
Right, a sign of confidence, maybe. So, okay, let's try and synthesize this. When you put this whole snapshot together, what's the main takeaway?
Well, I think it really shows this push and pull, right?
Yeah.
You've got the big picture geopolitics, caution driving these broad sector moves into defensives, and that hesitation you see in the longer term breadth.
Yeah, the macro currents.
Exactly. But at the same time, you see how incredibly powerful these like micro level events still are. A battery connection, a court ruling, a capital raise.
Yeah, completely dominating individual stocks.
Right. It captures that complex dynamic, that tension between the big picture and the company's specifics really well.
So here's something to think about then. Amidst all these big sector shifts in market signals like the S&P breadth, maybe urging caution, isn't it kind of remarkable how one piece of company news can still cause such an absolutely massive swing in a single stock? It really makes you consider how you balance that broad market view with, the sheer impact potential of specific events.